right, welcome into Yard Prep here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at Five Reasons Sports. We got Louis Sung. You can follow him at Louis D. Sung. And we've got Eric Wadicki. You can is it just Eric Wadicki? It is just Eric Wadicki, is it not?
Yeah, it's just, yep.
I always forget whether there's an initial with you guys or not. All right, we are sponsored, as always, by our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Get your initial deposit matched up to $100. There it is. Tua's number's kind of high today. It was 270-something, I believe. I don't know if you want to play that one necessarily. I kind of like Gesicki, who was over like 25 and a half yards. Waddle and Hill numbers have gone up, but I would actually play Waddle. But either way, you can only play all this stuff if you use the code 5, F-I-V-E. And get your initial deposit matched up to $100. It's free money. They don't have a ton of rollovers. This was just rated the #1 fastest growing sports product in the country. So check it out. Is our fantasy partner, Prize Picks. Use that code FIVE. All right, we got Dolphins and Lions today. The Dolphins kind of righted their season, although it was a little shaky there for a little while last week. They do escape with a victory. They're now 4-3 on the season. They've won every game, Lewis, this year that Tua has started and finished. That seems to be the formula. They're up against a Detroit team that gives up a lot of points. It would seem that this thing would set up for the Dolphins to get right, maybe in a way that they did not last week.
Well, I feel like at this point, there's really no excuse for the Dolphins not to have an amazing game, to be perfectly honest. This is a game where you expect the Dolphins to win. You expect them to win big, although we also said that last week was going to be the case where we expected them to win big. So hopefully they can get their act together. Hopefully that the fact that Tua has had a week to kind of get himself back to regular game speed, because remember, he had even said in his post-game presser that actually, you know what, the fact that I had been out for so long, it kind of messed with my mojo, so to speak. And knowing who Tua is and how he functions, making excuses is not really his thing. And so if he says that that's what it was that kind of threw him off his game, I'm inclined to believe him, because he usually beats himself up more than I just didn't do enough, rather than, oh, it was because of this. So I'm hoping that after a full weeks of practice, he's able to kind of get himself back into the game. He's back in a rhythm. He can start off strong. And again, this Lions defense, there is no superstar like James. I mean, there are good players on that defense, don't get me wrong, but they have not been able to put anything anything special on defense, unlike the Pittsburgh Steelers have. There is no Minka Fitzpatrick just absolutely messing with Tua's mind. There is no crazy defensive guru, so to speak, who's in there just knowing how Tua functions in his head. So they're really, if the Dolphins don't score a lot of points today, I would honestly be a little more concerned about why it's taking them so long to put together a good string of offensive football.
Yeah, Eric, I mean, to that point, they've been trying to establish the run a little bit more lately. Raheem has run the ball well. This is a team you can run against, so it would seem like a natural thing to do, but they do want to get some timing in the passing game. I even asked Tyreek Hill last week. I said, you guys seem like a little bit off, and they were. It's just the timing was not there. Which way do you think the Dolphins will lean today?
You know, I think that the game is going to almost force them to throw the ball a lot. This is a Lions team that offensively is getting a lot healthier, so I think that they're going to kind of be able to keep pace with the Dolphins, at least for a good portion of the game. I can see the first 3 quarters being a pass-heavier game script, and maybe the Dolphins go up, 10 points heading into the fourth, and then they have to start running the ball. But I do foresee this being a pretty high-scoring game going both ways, so I just think that the game script is going to maybe force them into throwing a little bit more than even they want to today.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think that we've seen early sometimes the Dolphins struggle to get into their offense, and it does take some time, although the first series scripts have typically been good here. But again, just staying on the offensive side here, Lewis, the offensive line has done enough to get Raheem some rushing lanes, right? So, I feel like they could stick with it a little bit longer.
And I would encourage the Miami Dolphins to do just that. This is what I said on Pulse of Fins Nation earlier this week, is that while the idea of having a workhorse running back what does that even mean considering the Miami Dolphins status, right? Because at the end of the day, what gets the big chunk plays, what gets defenses to kind of completely change their way of doing things is when Tua is on his targets and throwing the ball and he's playing on time. And so when everything runs the way it's supposed to that way, then yeah, they can run the ball more often, but they're not going to be a team where 30 carries is going to be the norm. And I'm okay with that. I don't need the Miami Dolphins to be a run-first football team. With all the weapons you have out there running around, running routes, doing whatever they're doing, you don't need to be a team that has to be focused on specifically the run. Now, does that mean I don't want them to run at all? Of course not. There has to be that balance. And I think the balance should skew a little bit more to the pass side because that's when Tua really gets a chance to cut deep into the defenses. So Tyreek Hill running open free, Jalen Waddle doing the same if Tyreek is double covered, getting Gesicki involved a little bit more. That would be fantastic if they kept that going, because I really do feel like that as time goes on, Gesicki's going to show that he does have a role. Every player he gets to have a bad game once in a while, right? Like, it's not like Mike Gesicki makes a habit out of dropping passes all the time, right? And so with that in mind, like, that's why I'm harsher on Chase Edmonds than I am on Gesicki, because Chase Edmonds has been consistently dropping passes. Mike Gesicki, that's a little bit more of an outlier when that happens. So Raheem Mostert, I feel like he should get a good heavy doses of carries, but I don't want him to carry the ball more than 15, maybe 20 at most. But that's okay with me because, again, I fully expect Tua to be able to light up this Lions defense, and I'm perfectly fine with that. This is the new NFL. Running the ball is nice and all, but it's not what gets offenses really rolling.
All right, let's switch over to the other side, and then we'll make our predictions here. On the defensive side, Eric, obviously Nick Needham's out for the season. Byron Jones is still out. Xavier Howard, do we have word on him yet? He was traveling
he's active.
The team. He's active. All right, so they have one guy. They've gotten a couple of the others back as well. But I still have concerns about the secondary here. And like you mentioned, Detroit has gotten a little bit healthier. But I also keep going back to a game that Jared Goff played against the Dolphins a couple of years ago when he was with the Rams, and Miami just teed off of him. They knew exactly where he was going to be. He's not a guy who improvises particularly well. Things have to be kind of perfect for him. I do feel with the way that Jalen Phillips has been coming around lately, I mean, he's been terrific the past 3 weeks. They can get pressure today, right? And at least make it easier on the defensive backfield.
Yeah, and to that point, Emmanuel Ogbah is also going to be active. All of the Dolphins' questionable players are active. So this is going to be a Dolphins defense that's kind of as healthy as it's been, over the last 3 or 4 weeks as well. And I do want to give the defense a little bit of credit over the last 2 weeks. I think they played a really solid game against Minnesota outside of the 53-yard run from Dalvin Cook. And they played a really good game against Pittsburgh that, again, Pittsburgh's got very comparable offensive weapons to the Lions in terms of their receiving core. And to your point, Ethan, I do think that teeing off on Jared Goff and kind of getting that pressure is going to be the key to this one. Just because if you're going to try to line up and stop what Detroit has man-to-man between Amon-Ra, St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift, it's going to be a tall task. So you've got to get pressure in on Goff. You've got to get him to panic because at the end of the day, that's his thing, is he is prone to panicking when he does have that pressure in his face.
Lewis, what would be the key for you today defensively?
The key to me is, just key in on the fact that it's Jared Goff and not Joe Burrow back there, because I'm looking at it in this perspective, right? You have, when they played against the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football with Tua, who was just barely off of whatever, not concussion / back injury / whatever you want to believe it is at this point that he was dealing with, they had a pretty good shot of winning that game. And they not only did they have Jamar Chase to deal with, they still had T. Higgins. They still had Tyler Boyd. They still had to deal with Joe Mixon. And so on paper, you would think that offense is actually scarier than whatever Detroit has to offer. So that's point number one. Now, with that in mind, Xavier Howard is still, he's back. He's going to be active. He's going to be playing. And I hope he's feeling better. I hope he feels better. After the funeral, I understand that it's a very difficult thing to go through. I hope that he's able to push it out of his mind at least for a few hours, and then he can go and take as long as he needs to mourn. But with that in mind, the Dolphins are getting healthier. Keon Crossan, Kader Kohu, they're expected to be back. And so with that in mind, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's very, very dangerous, but we're going to be able to put Xavier Howard on him. You have TJ Hawkinson, which, okay, that's pretty tough to deal with, but is that more dangerous than having to deal with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd? And by the way, the Cincinnati Bengals also have a pretty decent tight end in CJ Uzomah, so they had to deal with that. And of course, DeAndre Swift versus Joe Mixon. Who's the more dangerous guy? You decide. So if they were able to, it's not like the Bengals were completely wrecking the whole defense the entire game, right? They were able to at least hold their own for a little while. The offense had been able to get something going. They've really had a good shot at winning that game. So I think the key is just, get to Goff, make it so that he's going to make mistakes that Joe Burrow probably would not. And if they can hang with the Bengals for as long as they did, there should be no reason why the Detroit Lions should not absolutely get wrecked by this defense, Amon-Ra St. Brown or otherwise.
All right, let's get to the predictions here. Here's mine. I do think this is the breakthrough game for the Dolphins today. I felt like the issue in the last game was simply timing offensively. Like they were just a little bit off. And I think they would have put that thing away earlier. Obviously, not the best game for Mike McDaniel either. So you're hopeful today there's a little bit of a better job done there. I just think that there are too many ways for the Dolphins to go offensively against this defense. I don't see Detroit being able to plug all the holes today. I do think Mostert is going to have a strong game, at least from a yards per carry perspective. I don't know what to say about Chase Edmonds at this point, but I think that Gesicki's an X factor today. I think this may be finally a game where we see him get 4 or 5 catches for 60 or 70 yards, make some plays that aren't just in the red zone. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins today. I'm going to say 31-14 today. I think that they win comfortably. I think if they don't, there are concerns here that are sort of lingering because you don't want this to be a thing where the rhythm takes so long to come back. And you really can't drop any of these games, honestly, when you look at the schedule at the end of it. So, but I'm going to say the Dolphins 31-14. Lewis?
Can you let Eric go first? I'm setting something up.
Yes, go Eric first. Go.
Yeah. I think this is a game that maybe Detroit kind of hangs around in the first half. But I do think by the time the third quarter, fourth quarter come around, the Dolphins kind of pull away. I think the offense gets rolling 34-20.
Lewis,
are
we prepared for prediction? We went too short.
All right. So it's fine. I always try to stay consistent. I was trying to go back. It's like, what did I say on Pulse of Fins Nation? What was my prediction again?
Oh, I gotcha.
My prediction, I guess, because I'm always, I feel like all my numbers are always different. I always say something different. It's like, what do I feel like today? But anyway, I'll go ahead and just go ahead and guess with it. I feel like the Dolphins should win this game comfortably. That would be nice for my blood pressure and everybody else's, I'm sure, because I think we would like to be able to know by the third quarter, we've got this in the bag, as opposed to like hanging on until the last possible moment to find out if the Dolphins are going to win thanks to a Jason Sanders field goal or something, because that seems to be the pattern. Like it's crazy how that this is kind of why the concern for me is there. Not because the Dolphins can't do it on offense. It's just that it's more concerning that they can and they can't string it together to actually keep doing it the whole game. But I digress. This should be a game where that finally happens. I'm really hoping that you're right and that it actually does, because with these Dolphins, making predictions is kind of like just pulling something out of a hat. We'll see what happens. I think that they will score some points. I don't think they're going to score 31 points. But I'm going to go ahead and say that the Dolphins will win this game 24-14. I think that Tua will be able to actually get some touchdowns. I think he'll actually throw 2 touchdown passes today, which would be fantastic because that, according to Prize Picks, it's over on 1 touchdown pass?
One. Well, I think 1.5, yes, but it's in there.
Well, it's still 2, yeah, so.
Yeah. So you needed it 2. All right, so that's what you're going with. If you did give the same prediction on Pulse of Fins Nation, we won't hold it against you. Guys, make sure you use Prize Picks. Use that code 5 FIVE. I like the Waddle prop. Prop. Check that one out more so than I like the Hill prop. I think they got 23 yards separating them. But thanks to everybody for joining. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for 20,000 subscribers, and thanks to Eric and Lewis. Have a good day.